Hey guys, good evening. I hope you're all doing well. You might have seen my previous video about insomnia and its management. Now, in this video, I'm going to be talking about a more serious sleep disorder called sleep apnea. And this is of two types, central and obstructive. And I'm going to be talking about obstructive sleep apnea. We call that as OSA. Now, the whole idea of this video is to introduce you to a simple questionnaire called Stop Bang questionnaire, which I will explain a bit later. Before that, so what is OSA? So normally when we sleep, the tongue, neck muscles and our throat muscles relax. For some people it leads to snoring. For some other people with a large circumference of the neck, it leads to apnea, which means cessation of breathing. So they are not able to breathe in, they're not able to breathe out because the tongue is on the way. So this happens for a few seconds, during which time the carbon dioxide is being produced in the body, stimulates the brain, and the respiratory center in the brain sends signals across, and the person awakens suddenly with a feeling of panicking accompanied by maybe gasping and choking kind of sensation. So that is OSA. This continues for the whole night. So in the morning when they wake up, they are so tired and because they didn't have a good quality of sleep. So that's OSA. Now, what is the incidence of OSA? OSA affects about 4% of men and 2% of women in the British population. About 80% of people are still undiagnosed, even though they have got symptoms. OSA can directly lead to high blood pressure, and untreated and undiagnosed OSA can be associated with ischemic heart disease, type 2 diabetes mellitus, stroke, and obesity. It is also associated with increasing number of road traffic accidents and falls, especially amongst elderly people, because they don't sleep well at night. So in the daytime, if they are driving, they are so sleepy, which leads to accidents. So what are the symptoms of OSA? So the first and foremost is loud snoring. Loud means the person who is sleeping next door, he can hear the loud snore through the closed doors. So it's that loud. And observed pauses of breathing. So the person who has actually got sleep apnea may not be able to experience that pauses. The person, a family member who is like a spouse or partner, they can observe the pauses in the breathing, and that's how the patients come to the clinic. And as I said earlier, there is a sudden awakening with a feeling of panicking associated with gasping or choking kind of sensation. And because they didn't have a good quality of sleep in the night, in the morning they wake up with severe headache or sore throat. In the daytime, they are so sleepy and tired, daytime somnolence, and they're not able to concentrate on anything. They're not able to do their work efficiently. And they also suffer from mood changes like depression and irritability, those kind of changes. So a person comes to my clinic or asks me, Doctor, I snore at night, but how do I know if I got sleep apnea or not? So that is where this simple questionnaire helps, which is the prime motto of this video. So this questionnaire has got 8 parameters in it. This is what is practiced worldwide. So these 8 parameters, take pen and paper and give yourself a score of 1 if you have any of those parameters. If you don't have them, put a 0 for that. So the first word is stop. S for snoring. So do you snore loudly? Not just a simple snore, but the person on the next door can hear through the closed doors. So that kind of loud snore, then mark as 1. T for tiredness in the daytime. So do you have uncontrollable urge to sleep in the daytime because you didn't have a good quality of sleep in the night? So that's for T. If you have that, give yourself a score of 1. O for observed pauses. So this needs to be answered by the family members. So if there is an observed pause of breathing, cessation of breathing during their sleep, then that has to be scored 1. P for pressure, blood pressure. So if that person is being diagnosed or treated for high blood pressure, give a score of 1. So that's stop. So in bang, which is BANG, so let's look at B. B for BMI. So the normal BMI, as you know, is between 20 and 25. So if anyone has got a BMI of more than 35, you give yourself a score of 1. So that's high BMI. A for age. If you're more than 50 years old, score yourself 1. N for neck circumference. You got to identify the Adam's apple and measure it circumferentially. So if your neck, in women, if the neck circumference is more than 16 inches or 41 centimeters, you score yourself 1. And in males, if the neck circumference is more than 17 inches or 43 centimeters, score yourself 1. So that's for N, neck circumference. And then G for gender. If you're a male, give yourself 1. So now we've got all the 8 parameters scored by yourself. Count them. If the total score is 0, fine, good news. You don't have OSA and you don't need to worry about anything. If your score is between 1 and 2, you stand a very low risk of developing OSA in future. If your score is between 3 and 4, you got an intermediate risk of developing OSA. If your score is anything above 5, between 5 and 8, you stand at a very high risk of OSA. As I said, all you know is only the snoring, but there are so many other problems associated with this problem. So unless you subject yourself to this questionnaire and find out where you stand, it will be too late. If you stand a high risk of developing OSA, or if you've already got OSA, then what you need to do? One of the simple measures is weight reduction. I know it's easily said than done, and it takes a long time to reduce weight, but weight reduction really helps. The next thing you need to do is you need to subject yourself to some sleep function studies. So for that, you need to consult a sleep physician. So sleep medicine is a subspecialty of anesthetic, and there are renowned physicians all over the world. So you consult a sleep physician and they will subject you to a sleep study in the night. That means you'll be attached to a machine with the leads on, which will be measuring your heart rate, your respiratory rate, how many times you have passed your breathing in the night, and for how long, and how much oxygen you dropped in your body, and how much carbon dioxide elevated in your body. All these things will be recorded, and depending on that, they will produce a score called AHI index, and depending on the index, they will advocate some treatment. One of the main treatments for sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea, is a CPAP machine. CPAP stands for continuous positive airway pressure, where they provide you with a tight fitting face mask, or sometimes it is just a nasal mask with stirrups, tight stirrups around, and that blows continuous air through electrified medium, and it keeps your lungs and alveoli opened up because it blows under positive pressure. So that's one of the recommended treatments. And if you got hypertension or diabetes, you will have to be treated for that as well simultaneously. There are also some surgical options available, but we don't need to discuss about them. So in a nutshell, this is about CPAP, the sleep apnea and the treatment CPAP. So you might want to, if you're suffering from any of those symptoms, you might want to do that questionnaire by yourself. You can arrive at a conclusion, like where you stand, and then you might want to seek for help. I hope you find this video helpful, and take care, be happy. Thank you. Bye-bye.